But I wanted to hop on and talk a little bit about this morning's Think Then. We had a really interesting Think Then session about assertiveness. So let me back out just a little bit and explain what Think Then is. Think Then is our group program. We meet on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays in person at the Fit for Life studio, but we also have a virtual group that's starting in July on the 10th that's going to meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 12 o'clock and also Saturdays at 8:30 in the morning. And so what is Think Then? Think Then is us getting together and going over all kinds of psychoeducational tools and skills to help people with managing weight. Okay, so it's thinking thinner, all right? So that's what it is. So managing weight. And then what we do after that is everyone who participates in the group then goes into a fitness training session with Justin. So that's what Think Then is, okay? We also go over nutrition, and people will talk about their food laws, etc. What I think you need to know when it comes to the Think Then approach and managing your weight long term is that it never comes down to the food. So if you're struggling with your weight, rarely is it actually about the food. You know, people will say, well, maybe I'm just a foodie, or maybe it's I just like to eat. You know, maybe that's what it's about. Overarchingly, though, what I find is if your goal is to look better and feel better because of some purpose that you have in your life, something that you're trying to work on, if it's because of lab numbers, if it's because you're trying to get a job and you want to feel more confident, if it's because you don't play the way that you used to with your kids, you sabotaging that has little to do with your actual desire to eat. And that's kind of what Think Then is about, is if you can't follow the meal plan and you can't make yourself exercise, I really want you to consider if there's something else that's going on that you need to be aware of. One of the big things that shows up when I'm working with clients, is boundaries and assertiveness. So what I find is a lot of people don't speak up, okay? And there's so many reasons for that. And that's one of the things we were going over today is why do we not speak up, especially as women? Why do we have a hard time with being assertive? One of the comments around assertiveness this morning was, well, I correlate this idea of being assertive with being, the B word. And therapeutically, what I would say is aggressive. So being assertive is the same as being aggressive, and it's not. Being assertive is not the same as being aggressive. You can be passive, which a lot of women will say, I'm that doormat. You can be passive and not speak up and let everybody in your life get their way and cater to everyone and not get your needs met. That's passive. You can be aggressive, so therefore you're that neck rolling person with the attitude, and you're not going to talk to me like that, and blah, 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 and argumentative and confrontational. That is aggressive. That's not what we're discussing. Or you can be assertive, okay? And assertive is that nice middle ground where you are getting your needs met, but you're also validating the other person has needs as well, and you are helping the two of you to get to a mutually satisfying place. What does not speaking up have to do with not being able to lose weight? A lot of times what I find is if you don't have a voice that you are using, right? If you're not speaking up for yourself, all those things, all those feelings you have get stuffed, right? So you're doing something with them. So if you don't share how you actually feel, if you don't speak up to people and tell them how you need to get your needs met, that stays in you and it festers. And a lot of times people will eat because they're not speaking up. They're stuffing their voice. Therefore, they're eating to stuff down their feelings and all the resentment they start to have with people. So one of the big things people who work with me therapeutically will hear me say is, I need you to work on boundaries. I need you to work on your assertiveness skills because you're going to keep going to food as long as you're stuffing how you're feeling and you're not telling people what's really going on for you, okay? And what we worry about a lot of times is that we will push that person away or they'll judge us or they'll think, there are things that interfere with being assertiveness. Some of those are real. Some of those are real. Sometimes you speaking up and having your own experience and your own voice will turn away people that you care about, and that's a scary thing. So that's why it's really important to master it, master the skills around it, and then also be prepared to kind of critically look at, what does this mean about my relationship? So today what we went over is some of the main things you need for asserting yourself, right? So there are 3 main skills you need to assert yourself. The first is explaining yourself. The second is asserting yourself. And the third is rewarding the other person in advance for giving you what you want. So explaining yourself involves letting the other person know what the situation is that prompts your request or refusal and your feelings or opinions about the situation. And the idea here is that the other person will be more likely to give you what you want if they understand your situation. Now, that's not always true, but you need to start with that piece. Asserting yourself involves telling the other person clearly what it is you're asking for or refusing to do. Now, the person won't necessarily know what you want, even if they understand the situation you're in. So being specific, being clear and concise is super important. And this rewarding piece, rewarding the other person involves figuring out and explaining how that person might benefit from giving you what you want. All right, we're always negotiating in life, and this applies personally. We talked a lot today about in our households getting spouses and children to engage in the way that we need them to. So you need these skills in that environment. You know, let everybody know how they're going to benefit from giving you what you want, participating in what you're requesting. The same thing applies in the business world, though. You're always negotiating, right? And so mastering assertion skills is important when it comes to food, but it also very much is going to help improve all areas of your life. So that's my Think Then tip, Think Then share for today. Hopefully that was helpful. There are so many books out there on being assertive, but if you're struggling with food and mood and you know that you're one of those people that feels like a doormat all the time, there's a connection there that you want to explore, okay? All right, I will get going. Have a wonderful day and think then.